extremely, extremely special that I'd like to do now. It is my great honor to introduce an old student of Mr. Marcus's from his 6th grade class in 1978. Hey, you really are old, Mr. Marcus. That's a good Mr. Marcus, we all love you. And as some of you may know, ever since I was an extremely, extremely young kid, I've wanted to be a United States Marine. And I watched this one film, and it was about Marines, and I'm like, wow, this is really cool. I want to do something with film, but I also want to be a Marine at the same time. So, but now it is my great pleasure to introduce a retired United States Navy veteran and a law enforcement officer, which served as law enforcement for 23 years, Mr. Troy Craig.
Just for the record, he called me an old student also, so.
If you're old, that really makes me old.
My bad.
It's all relative to my kids. Well, first of all, I want to say congratulations to all of you. Some really great productions that you put on. Shows a lot of creativity, a lot of style, and I can tell, I don't know what the school capacity is here, but your ratio of talent to students is pretty darn high. So hats off to all you guys. Give yourselves a round of applause. So production's come a pretty long way, huh?
A little bit.
A little bit?
Oh no, you're not going to show that clip, are you? The 8mm?
Is that your first clip?
Oh, good Lord.
Do we have a clip of the first production Mr. Marcus ever put on? Years. Think about that. That's how long Mr. Marcus has been teaching. Let's put that into perspective. Some parents might get this, but some kids might not even have a concept of it. The average car price when Mr. Marcus started teaching was $4,300. Gas prices were 65 cents a gallon. The first space shuttle wouldn't even go into space for another 4 years. The first Star Wars movie had just arrived in theaters. 40 years ago, big hair was all the rage. Do we have a clip of big hair anywhere? That was my teacher right there. But I think you were trying to emulate somebody.
Travolta.
Do we have a picture of John Travolta?
It refuses to open.
There we go. So was that what you were trying to look like?
Yeah.
Just making sure. So 40 years ago at home, we had to wait for our favorite show to come on TV, one of the 3 channels that we would have. 40 years ago, that's all we had. No DVRs, no on-demand, no binging. If we wanted to relive a television experience, we would place our audio cassette in front of the TV and press record because VCRs weren't even around yet. Now VCRs are long gone, and so is Mr. Marcus's hair.
I had nothing to do a part of with that one.
Texting, video chat, Facebook Live, none of that was there. Either go to your friend's home or dial them up on a rotary phone. And if you were lucky, we had a push button phone that we could use. Privacy was limited to how far the phone cord would actually reach from the phone. Nothing was wireless. If you had a question, you had to go to the library. There was no Google, there were no smartphones, GPS wasn't around just yet. We had to use maps or go to the gas station attendant to ask for directions if we ever got lost. A lot of things can happen in 40 years. But think about this, to teach for 40 years and to still have the energy and the ability to inspire others, that's a pretty big deal. I met Mr. Marcus around 1978, his second year of teaching, when I was a 6th grade student of his at Acres Green Elementary. At the time, I was a kid with many interests, but I suffered from a lack of focus and confidence, which caused me to direct my energies in ways that weren't always positive. Unbeknownst to me at the time, Mr. Marcus would identify my gifts and harness many of these energies to provide me with a better foundation, much of which I still stand on today. Before then, it never really occurred to me that a teacher could be someone that you could actually talk with and share experiences with, and have them care about the dialogue that was actually being exchanged. I know you guys get that by how you act with Mr. Marcus, I can see that. Dan taught me that communication was the key to opening the mind to ideas and opportunities, and in turn, find successes in so many things. Dan never seemed to work hard at communication, never seemed forced. I don't even believe it was any part of a teaching strategy of his. For Dan, communications was, and still is, a natural part of who he is, and he has learned to use that natural gift to help others to get everything they can out of themselves. Dan communicated and taught to me, not at me, bringing learning to life, whether it was reconstructing King Tut's tomb in the school basement, which later was condemned, you can tell them that story. Learning geography through playing a board game called Risk, or letting my imagination run wild with all things space related, Dan allowed me to learn the way that was best for me, not best for him. And in the age where critical thinking has become an often overlooked commodity, Dan taught me to appreciate the value of history and to appreciate another individual's perspective, to take a longer view of things and to try to understand something even though it might not seem important at the time. Whether it was through a history lesson or while staging a mock courtroom trial, Dan always seemed to find a way to provide a lesson or a life skill without students even realizing it. And remember, this is 6th grade, not high school, that he was doing this. Dan's methods taught me that there was more than one way to approach things. He allowed me to trust him and to learn from him, which in turn provided me with the motivation and confidence I needed to actually give something a try. He taught me that a teacher could be a mentor, a role model, and in time, a pretty good friend. When I first learned of this award, I presented a survey to many of his past and present students, his peers and supervisors, to gather their thoughts of how Dan may have affected them. The response was far beyond my expectations. Aside from the large number of responses I received, the surveys revealed something beyond a genuine appreciation and love for Dan. I couldn't help but notice how similar many of the comments were to my own recollection of my past experiences with him. What I saw in Dan in as early as 1978, his genuine concern and desire to communicate with others, was something that everyone surrounding him has also seen and been a beneficiary of. I was astonished to think that Dan has consistently been demonstrating these qualities and teaching others to do the same for over 40 years. Dan has clearly demonstrated that his students and the lives around him are an investment rather than a process. Dan has played an influential role in my life and should be a role model that all other teachers should aspire to. Every person has that one teacher that made everything click. Dan was that teacher for me. And it was all because he took the time to communicate. And this is why Dan Marcus has been nominated for the National Communication Association's 2017 Wallace A. Bacon Lifetime Teaching Excellence Award. The one thing I want you to know, though, Dan, is regardless of the outcome of this nomination, I think it's safe to say from everything I've seen here tonight and everything I've said here, that you've already received the greatest recognition any teacher could ever hope for, the respect and admiration of all your students. Dan has stood up for students for over 40 years, time very well spent by you. But now it's his turn. Please join me now by standing up for him and giving Mr. Marcus a well-deserved round of applause.
Thank you all. I really appreciate that. You know, when we had Troy come out as the mummy in the basement of the school, I just wonder how many first and second graders we scarred for life. You know, that actually had to go to therapy, you know, for that, because it was pretty real. It was pretty scary. I still do practical jokes, but... Oh, okay, I gotta gather myself, because guys, one thing that thank you so much, Troy. About a week after we filmed that 8mm clip, the superintendent of Douglas County came in and closed it down because it was against fire regulations. That's what he was talking about. I said, would you build this in the basement underneath the gym? Pretty, take those risks when you're a second-year teacher.